In this special episode of Average Jocks Hockey Podcast, it is intended for mature audiences only. We discuss sensitive subjects in a raw and honest interview about social, physical, and verbal abuse, as well as racism. The conversation might be hard to listen to and can be triggering. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are his own and do not reflect Justin, Joel's, and Average Jocks Hockey Podcast's opinions. We stand up in the fight against all types of abuse and racism. Please only watch if you feel like you can handle it. We appreciate your understanding and support on this matter. Enjoy. So, welcome, Nate. We want to thank you for joining us. Nathan or Nate?
Either one's fine.
All right. So we want to welcome you to Average Jocks. The purpose of why we wanted to do this episode was, last week we covered with Noodles, kind of the Mitchel Miller story, and kind of everything that's been out there in the last, really since he's been drafted about the whole situation. And having you on kind of offers a little bit different perspective to the story, and kind of adds some different things that maybe weren't brought to light so far. And obviously I think you can agree that none of us condone the bullying that went on for years, and obviously that's not right, and I think you can agree to that. But I think we just cover stuff that that hasn't been talked about, and just kind of paint a fuller picture for everybody out there listening.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. First and foremost, obviously, I don't agree with bullying or racism of any sort. I've had friends that have taken their life because of bullying and depression. So I do not condone any bullying of any sort. A lot of people, it sticks with people for their whole life, actually. So I'm not a fan of bullying. I've had friends that were, and like I said, it really messes with their mental health and everything. So,
well, again, thank you for coming on, and I guess we'll jump right into it. So you went to high school with Mitchel and Hunter, correct?
Middle school. Yep.
So you would have been around whenever all this was kind of going on.
Yep, I was around.
So I guess the biggest question that most people would have is, especially in the letter that was released by Isaiah, saying that, he was told by teachers or the principal or whatever, some adult in the school, that, ignore it, don't be friends with them, stay away from them. Like, how common knowledge was this that this was going on? Like, was it as blatant as the adults knew it was going on? This is happening at lunch. This is happening, in the halls or in the classrooms. Like, was everybody aware of this?
So from our perspective and everything, it kind of seemed like they were friends, but like definitely they would I feel like in different friend groups, they kind of had that one kid they pick on a lot.
Okay.
And it seemed like that was the case with Isaiah, but there's definitely people knew what was going on,
Yeah.
Definitely the adults did. We knew something was going on, but we didn't think at first it was, bullying. We just thought they were good friends because, how boys can be in middle school and everything, mess around with each other, but we didn't realize how serious it actually was and how much deeper it was until everything started happening.
Well, no kidding. And I feel like, you kind of hit it on the head where, and not to say boys will be boys and like we said, bullying at all, but I feel
right.
like even Justin and I in our friendship, we'll razz each other or tease each other, make comments that,
right, harmless.
Yeah, but you do it because it's your friend and you're kidding and you're that. So I get what you're saying where, to people outside thinking, okay, well, these guys look like they're friends, they're around each other, you know,
Right.
it's just it's teasing, it's whatever. So I get that. Right. But at what point did, or maybe at all, maybe it was after the fact, like when you were older, but at what point did people start to realize we're starting to cross the line here? This isn't teasing. This isn't, joking around or pulling a prank.
Definitely. I'm sure people definitely had suspicions getting to before the whole incident, but they didn't know. Like they could definitely tell like something was happening, and like this seems to not be teasing anymore. This might be more bullying, but I'd say finally when everything like came out in the news, because it went to our local news actually first when the whole situation came out. I think that's when people started to fully realize, what had been going on and everything for the past year and everything, the years before, So really when that article came out and when they got in trouble at that basketball game, I think that's when people started to fully realize the like actual truth and the length of what was happening.
So I know you and I kind of spoke the last few days about the racism that went on, and we've seen from the media coverage and in statements made by Isaiah's mom Joni and himself of the names he was called.
Yeah.
I mean, it's safe to say, from our conversations that you are friends or you do maintain some kind of relationship with Mitchel and Hunter presently.
Yep.
Like, was the racism as prominent? Like, racism in any form is bad.
Right.
But, like, the way it's making it sound is this was, like, all day, every day. Was it in your face like this? Was this behind closed doors? Because, like, I would imagine. Like, I couldn't imagine making comments like that and then having a friend that is, African American or of any other race, depending, what derogatory comments you're making. Like, to me, it wouldn't add up, or it wouldn't make sense to me that you can make comments or say things like that to somebody and then turn around and have a friend that is, that is in that cultural appropriation. Like, I don't know, like, to me, it just, that part of this whole thing doesn't make sense to me, because that part, like, you can't choose or turn off being racist. Like, I don't know, like, I just find it very kind of strange, that whole part of this.
Yeah. So, really, with the whole racism thing, like I said, obviously things were said. It wasn't an all-day, everyday thing, but there was definitely comments. That's something that is truthful. There's comments, things that happen and were said that should not have been said. Like I said, it was an awful thing that happened. And I don't really agree with it at all. I'm sure people in our community were definitely like outraged by it. When that came out, I didn't even realize the gravity of the situation was actually this bad. So obviously, me as an African American myself, I'm not gonna be the happiest about it. But like I said,
so like you were like, I know you were telling me that you play hockey from time to time with Mitch. Like, were you guys friendly like that in middle school?
We were friends. We didn't really hang out much outside of like if we weren't skating with each other. Like, but we were friends. We talked. We didn't really have any problems in middle school. We would talk here and there about hockey, and that was really it. There wasn't too much. We were friendly, but not too friendly to the point we were in different friend groups.
So to your knowledge, I guess,
Yeah.
like, did the racism, like, was it isolated towards Isaiah, or was this a bigger issue that we were looking at?
I would have to say it was probably more isolated.
Okay.
He wasn't, like I said, and me and the other African Americans in our grade, never really experienced any racism from him at all. So I'm assuming this was more of an isolated thing than a bigger thing.
Okay. So was there ever, like, I mean, as you became closer when you were older, with Mitchell, like, was there ever any conversation or, like, I don't want to say calling him out, but, like, kind of, hey, like, everything that was said, everything that, came out afterwards of the things you were saying that really could imply that you're very racist. Like, are we cool? Like, what, like how did that go down? Because, like, to me, again, just reading, what's available out in the, in the media, you're almost like, well, these guys aren't going to be friends. Like, this, just an unlikely friendship to form.
Yeah. So actually, I remember us skating together, me, Mitchell, and the other student involved. We went to a skate right after they had been expelled, I believe. And, we were all skating and we talked about it for a little bit. Really, I don't want to say I called him out about it. I just kind of got more of the, like, hey, what's going on? Like, what kind of trouble are you guys in? I was more interested, like, what kind of trouble did they get in, and, like, what's going on with Isaiah? Have you guys made up yet? Like, what's the deal? And, like, I didn't realize at that time, I think it just got on the local news, and I was like, has this affected you in any way? Because at the time, I believe Mitchell was committed to Miami University for hockey.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you still get to keep your commitment and all that? But I can't really say I ever called him out about it, but I did ask him some questions about it. And
so was there ever was there ever like an apology or anything to you? And I know, again, these comments weren't made to you, but it's almost like it's offensive, really, what he was saying, regardless if it's to you or not. Like, was there ever, like, I've acknowledgement, I made those comments, that's not cool, like, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
just a stupid
actually,
kid.
He did, we did talk about it, like, more in depth, like I said. I don't know if you would consider this an apology, but he, like, admitted he was wrong. He should have never said those things, even though, and, from my perspective, I don't believe he was actually racist, and I hope, no one takes it the wrong way, but, I've seen it as a black man, and I feel like, some people will say and do racist things to be funny for the crowd.
Okay. So I guess I just want to give more of the floor to you now to kind of talk about how you feel the accuracy of what we'll start with what had played out back in middle school. Like, I know it talked about constant physical bullying day in and day out. It talked about like a lollipop in the urinal. There was obviously the racist comments, which we've kind of addressed so far. Like, I just want to let you kind of touch a bit on that kind of stuff, and if that, because we are only hearing the one side right now. Mitchell hasn't really come out and said anything, and obviously he got in trouble, so there is truth to what had went on. But as somebody that was around and that, what were you hearing, kind of in the school halls or through, through other people about what was going on?
Yeah. So, really, when I started like hearing about it, I want to say a week after everything had went down. From what I understood before, I really knew what was going on, is I thought it was just another incident of bullying. I thought he had made some racist comments because originally they had just gotten suspended from school, not expelled. Originally they just gotten suspended. So I'm like, all right, they made some racist comments. They probably got physical with him and a little too physical.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I heard at first. When you go deeper into the story, I didn't even know about the push pop thing actually until it came to our local news. So from what I understand, that happened is they're at a basketball game, and Mitchell and Isaiah, I believe Mitchell and Hunter, my apologies. I think they put a push pop in a urinal or something like that, and they offered it to a couple different people, and then they offered it to Isaiah. And this is where it gets tricky, and the he said, she said things, because I don't know what is true, because I've heard a couple different versions. So the original version, from what I heard, is they offered it to a few different people, and then Isaiah volunteered to lick it, and he knew like where it had been. And I guess Isaiah always wanted to fit in when we were definitely younger, and he had offered to lick it. But then the other version I've heard of it is they forced him to lick it, and then they told him what they did with it after. And then, that's when Isaiah got mad and apparently had started like chasing Hunter or Mitchell. So that's another, version. Me, I was not personally at that basketball game, so I don't know which version of the push pop, story is true. Whether it sounded like, they did offer it to a couple people.
So, you were saying the whole suspension before being expelled. Was there multiple physical altercations? Like, were physical altercations happening on the daily as the media is making it sound?
That I do not believe so. I know they would definitely roughhouse, but I don't believe that there isn't like physical, like them actually like physically abusing him every single day. But definitely there was some roughhousing going on. When I remember from our middle school, us boys would check each other into lockers and stuff like that and do stupid things like that. But there was definitely some roughhousing, but I didn't understand. According to one of the news articles that his mom had spoke about, I think they said his head was like pushed into a wall or something like that. But again, there was no, if you look back at our school files, I don't know if there was a video about it, she said, or if it was in the school documents. So that comes down to, a proof thing. But that's the most violent I've heard from the situation. But from the physical abuse, that's really all I've heard.
And, obviously physical abuse in any sense, one is more than enough.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess my question is, based on what you just said, it sounded like it wasn't just Isaiah that was getting, pushed in a locker or roughhouse, whatever. So everybody was kind of doing it to everybody. Is that the sense? Am I reading what you said correctly?
Yeah, so we would definitely roughhouse with each other. But from their situation with Isaiah, and that's where I can't touch on too much, because obviously I don't know the full story on that part of the physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna go against him, because if he says it happened to him and that's what it has in the court documents, that's hard to go against. He might have gotten some extra things that they might have thought was funny and he played along with, but stuff that he did not like at the time. Because, we can say one thing and actually mean another. So maybe there was things that were happening where he didn't like it at all, but he would just go along with it because he wanted to fit in.
Okay.
I have a question. So I'm going to read a quote of what Isaiah said. He said,
Yep.
I had to say I was his N-word to sit at his table, and he made me clean the whole table. He threw food in my face, and I was called the N-word every day. Now, if that's in the lunchroom, would that not be noticed by anybody else? Did you notice that kind of behavior in the lunchroom?
You see, that's something I did not notice, and I only sat a table away from them from eighth grade. That's something I did not notice. The racial slurs, they probably could have happened, like I said, because there was racist comments that were happening. The cleaning of the table, that's something I don't really remember. And even if you look at our original news article, that's something that wasn't in there in the original Toledo Blade news article, which I'll send to you guys after. That was not in there. Throwing the food in the face, that's something, like I said, I don't remember being in the original news article as well, or something I would saw. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it's just not something that was ever brought up at that time. And it's not something that I really remember.
Okay.
Yeah, so but for how Isaiah would say he was called these racial slurs at lunch, like him saying that Mitchell said that he would have to say he's a N-word to sit at the table. I'm not gonna deny that didn't happen. Just I didn't hear it personally. I wasn't there. That's why I can't say if it did or didn't happen. But there was racial slurs said, so I can't really deny, that stuff like that did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Like, what did that look like after they got expelled? What was it like there? Like, was there a big change, I guess, in what was happening? Because I know, from accounts, that Joni and Isaiah had said that Hunter and Mitchell, when they were gone, it continued happening. Like, did you see a difference after they left?
After they left and were expelled from school, so actually I do remember our who was that? I believe it was our assistant principal at the time, or if she had just been promoted to principal. She had been asked, she had been working with Isaiah and trying to get him support. Excuse me, sorry. From the other students. So I remember, I believe he started sitting at our table by one of, our friends, like, is this where you feel comfortable sitting? I remember at one lunch day and stuff like that. He was not bullied at school once they were expelled, like, by anybody at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I could say confidently. If anything, it was definitely a lot of support from everybody at our school, because it was actually our own students who reported the situation with Mitchell and Hunter.
So it wasn't even like a principal or a teacher. This was a student that reported this.
Yeah, they weren't happy with what had happened.
Wow.
And, they had witnesses and everything. So, there's definitely a lot more support that understood what had happened. And especially it went to our local news, Toledo Blade. So, it's pretty serious. So stuff definitely did change and changed for the better,
So, and again, this is just your opinion. I just find it, like, if this was happening at my school, or if I had a kid, or, I mean, maybe you can talk, like, because you have kids, like, if this was going on at their school, and, the adults are obviously aware of this, and comes out like it's being talked about as if they know this, did they drop the ball? Like, why didn't anybody step in? Like, why wasn't more done? Because obviously, once the student reported it, the ball started rolling, and they got expelled. They went to court. Like, I guess just how did so many adults either turn a blind eye or not know or be oblivious to this situation, I guess, is kind of my question. And could they have stopped something earlier? Because, I mean, I feel like, again, just thinking back to my middle school, and kind of like what we talked about earlier about, wanting to fit in, it would take a lot for somebody of that age group to kind of stand out against their peers in any situation, to kind of go against the grain and to report something. Like, do you feel as if the adults in this situation didn't do enough?
I feel like it definitely could have been prevented, and from what I've heard and seen in other news articles and even in Isaiah's statements, and there's a specific one to the HDA. I believe he had actually reported it to teachers before, and they said to stay away from him.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Like, I feel like, and obviously he was saying something at home. Like, if you're getting this kind of treatment and if you're comfortable reporting it to a teacher, you're obviously going home. And I don't know, I know he has his parents, but if he has siblings, he has to be saying something to somebody at home, or somebody at home has to know about this. I'm sure his siblings went to the same school. I don't know how far apart they are in age, if his brother or sisters would have been in middle school as well, but somebody had to know something.
I definitely feel like he had reported it to teachers and our staff. I definitely feel like they didn't do enough. They might have, maybe there was some discipline that I wasn't aware of, maybe a detention here, a detention there, but they did tell him to stay away from them. But when you're trying to make friends in middle school and stuff like that, and here's where it does get a bit tricky with bullying. They can act like they're your friend one day, and you have a really good day. You think they're your friend, and the next day they'll bully you, but they'll be like, "Oh, I'm just joking."
Yeah.
So you don't go tell. And I feel like more could have been done to prevent it. And the adults, in the situation for McCord Junior High, I didn't think they realized how serious it actually was. They probably took it as just another, he's just making fun of him and being mean to him case, instead of actually realizing the bigger problem. They didn't look too far into it until other students started reporting on his behalf.
So do you think that the situation was not taken seriously? Is that what
so from what I understand, Isaiah said he had reported it and the teacher told him to stay away. At that point, I don't know how he explained it to the teachers. If he didn't explain it in a serious matter, which I assume he did, but if he didn't, that's some reasons they couldn't have been taken seriously. I don't know, I don't know what he told the teachers at the time, whether they were he told the teachers he was just getting bullied, or if he told the teachers he was experiencing racism. So depending on what he told the teachers, I guess is how serious they took it.
Yeah. So just for reference, how big was this middle school? Was it just a 7-8? Was it a middle school that was attached to a high school? And how many students are we talking?
So in Sylvania, Ohio, we have 3 middle schools. It's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I want to say probably almost 1,000 students in this middle school.
Wow. So this is big. I mean, where we're from, I remember my middle school, we maybe had 500 kids, and that's double. And it was a pretty big middle school. It was a small school, but there was a lot of kids that went there, and different grades. And what were you looking at, class sizes, just on average? Are we talking 30 students, 40 students per class?
I want to say over 20, almost 30, depending on the class.
Okay.
I remember I was in band and there was 50 something kids in there, 50, 60, and that wasn't even, that was a little bit of the grade, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say that it wouldn't be hard to go unnoticed, I guess, if you wanted to. When it came to, whatever you want to call it, hazing, bullying, abuse, whatever, because I'm sure, this case isn't the only one, and I'm not saying severity wise. I just mean like I'm sure there was other bullying, other fights, other disagreements, whatever, amongst students other than this. So it's not as if it was small enough that it should have been noticed. It obviously should have been, but it's not like it was in your face all the time because of the number of people.
Yeah, definitely could have been taken light. It was definitely taken too lightly at some points. And I feel like that's actually a problem with our school system here in America in general. A lot of the bullying cases that do get reported, I've noticed from growing up in our school system, are taken more lightly than they should be. And I've seen cases where they've been more serious than how they've been taken. Like telling a kid if he reports something serious, to just stay away from a kid, like that's not doing enough by any means, obviously.
No kidding.
And yeah, like I think that's just a problem in North America here.
So I will kind of give you the floor now and kind of share what you know and what you're able to, because I understand and appreciate the situation you're in, where things can't be shared because of everything that's going on. It's still in the courts, and obviously with the Mitchell's contract and the stuff with the NHL. So we're going to respect your limitations, but I just want to give you the floor to kind of talk about what you think, what you've seen, what that may not be talked about right now. So the floor is yours. We may interject if we have questions or things pop up as you go. But right now it's your time to kind of share your perspective.
Okay. So what I believe has been going on is obviously it started with when after everything had happened, obviously it died down. That's how things work. It was definitely a big story for a little bit, then it died down. Mitchell went on with his life, Isaiah went on with his life. So a statement that Joni made, which was false. She had said that the bullying continued after though she said that she had claimed the bullying continued after the situation happened, and that Mitchell would go by her house and rollerblade past it and throw rocks and yell, racial slurs apparently. After the situation had happened and they went to court, they had a court mandated order with the no contact, which means Mitchell or Isaiah couldn't contact or go near him until they were 18 years old. So that was already in place. That was something that came to light after when it hit the national news. That was never said, during the time after when they were expelled. We were in high school and Mitchell was still doing big things with hockey as well. I believe he had played for a couple of the USA teams. He had committed to North Dakota at that time. And, he was doing things like that. And, never, nothing ever came up. I'm sure the team knew about the situation, but it never came back up again until he got drafted in the NHL. And when he even got drafted, everybody was congratulating him again. I actually play with one of the victims' moms. I play with one of her nephews on my current hockey team. And he had told me that as soon as Mitchell got drafted, he had texted her brother, which is his dad, and said, "I'm calling the Arizona newspaper right now." And I guess that said, "Don't do it, leave the situation. This can be solved privately." And she did that. And, I feel like a bunch of lies have been told as well. She also said, and which I sent you a text message of, and hopefully we can get him here on the podcast in the future. Hunter McKee, the other student involved, she had said that they felt that he was remorseful and that he went over to their house to apologize. As you can see in the text message I sent you, me and him talking about it, he did the same exact thing Mitchell had to do, write a court-ordered apology, do the community service, and he had never gone over to Joni Myers Carruthers' house to apologize. Um, I feel like the only reason this has come back up and it went to national news is because Mitchell went to the NHL. The reason Hunter isn't getting any publicity, nationally from it is because Hunter is just, another normal college student. I feel like I don't want this to be taken away, but it's a power, it's a power thing. I feel like the victim's mom 6 years after this, and Mitchell has tried to apologize countless amount of times. Privately, Mitchell's family has tried to make this right so many times, and she won't let it happen. And no one really knows. If you look at my post that I made about everything, no one knows what she wants, how this can be resolved. She's just not ever wanting to play in the NHL. Does she want peace about this? And I would like to read a statement from actually the other party involved, Hunter McKee.
So before we get that, I just want to interject.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were saying about not knowing what she wants, and obviously, again, everything is there's the two sides to the story, and obviously that was whenever this whole thing came out. Whenever you spoke about them having the court order of almost like a restraining order where they can't have contact. Like that's something I thought of before, us even talking, before I seen your post, like how like something like that must have been in place
like
with how
standard.
Yeah, like with how severe everything was. How do you want somebody to apologize unless it's through the media, unless it's through a letter, through the court, if there's a no contact? And that's something that came to my mind where I'm like, not saying she's lying. I'm just feeling like there may be a stretching of the truth when it comes to that, or we're only talking about what's convenient for the story, whether that's from Joni or whether that's from the media. I'm not going to point fingers there, but I feel like that's like Justin said, standard to have a no contact. There's obviously reasons why there's no contact, and that prevents any dialogue back and forth. And I guess the other thing I just wanted to say was what you talked about, kind of Hunter, not getting the attention that Mitchell is because of the NHL thing. Hunter, obviously this still haunts him daily, I'm sure. Because it is still getting the attention it does. So sorry, I knew you said you're going to read a statement, so I'll leave that for now. But the one last thing I kind of wanted to comment on was, and again, this is more your opinion, do you feel that this is almost a revenge play on, and again, I don't even know at this point if it's Isaiah, if this is Joni, or the media, whatever. Do you feel like this is kind of like you treated me like shit, back in the day or forever, how long, and you did A, B, C, and D. Well, now's my chance to stick it to you. Like, do you feel like that's the kind of the case here?
Yes, I do want to say it is a revenge play that you treated my son, horribly. I don't ever want you to play in the NHL. I don't want you to be successful. I don't want you to do anything, because I feel like if she really wanted to handle this, and so both parties can go along their lives without having to relive this trauma, then this could have all been handled privately. she didn't need to call the Arizona Republic in 2020 when Mitchell got drafted to the Arizona Coyotes. If she truly wanted to, I feel like this could have all been resolved privately. They could have came to an agreement of some sort, but she did bring it back up to the national news, and this is in my words in the original Arizona Republic letters. And it said when she contacted the Arizona Republic, and how she spoke to them and everything of that sort. So this is definitely a revenge play at this point, especially it being 6 years later, 7 years later, and people will say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. He was that young. He should have known better." Stuff like that. It's like, all right, and I agree with you. What can we do to fix this so everybody can move on to this from the situation? Because I don't even think Isaiah wants this. He doesn't like the media attention, and it would be harder. I think it's making it harder on him mentally because he has to relive this all again. Now it's in the media, and it's making it harder on him. Mitchell's losing a good career over it. Like, it's not good for anyone. I just think it's a revenge plot by the mom. And yeah, from what I've seen in the proofs I'll show to you guys as the show goes on, it kind of proves my point.
Like, there's people's lives in play, and I feel like the NHL, it's a PR thing. For Joni, it's a personal thing. For Isaiah and Mitchell, they're young adults now. Like, there's just so many layers to this story that it's just like, where to begin?
Yeah.
But let's read what Hunter had to say, and we'll touch on the rest a little later on.
Yeah. So I had asked Hunter I'd asked him for a statement how this situation had impacted his life. And he said, in quotes back to me, "I had to make career choices knowing that if I applied for jobs, I most likely wouldn't be hired because of the lies about me and Mitchell on the internet that Joni was spreading. A lot of people know me and believe the wrong things that are on the internet, so I've been treated differently for no reason. But my exposure to impact on my life is nothing compared to Mitchell's. He's literally getting his life stolen from him by things that aren't true." And he said, "This is the honest truth. It affected everything from where I went to college and where he could get jobs at. And it's not the lies from 8th grade. Obviously they admitted to it in court. Bullying happened, racism happened, physical abuse happened, but it's about the lies that are being spread afterwards. As I said, Hunter said he never went to her house and apologized, and same thing with Mitchell. He couldn't even get within, a certain amount of feet of the victim. There wasn't any bullying after 8th grade. There's no court document. If there was, that would have been a huge legal problem that would have been in the court documents.
So, I guess, like, again, you kind of spoke on Mitchell kind of taking the brunt of this. Like, does Hunter feel like at all, I guess, guilty in the sense of, and again, he's going through his own type of, I'm sure, struggles with this still being in the media, but does he feel almost like, Mitchell's on an island of his own?
That I'm not sure about how he feels, if he thinks Mitchell's on his island alone. I definitely feel like he thinks that Mitchell is definitely getting a lot of more bad publicity than he would have gotten, since Hunter didn't, Hunter played hockey as well, that he didn't end up going to the NHL or anything. But Mitchell did, so I think that's what, he feels like he's not getting the, obviously, and he doesn't want that bad publicity because he didn't end up doing anything with hockey. Then Mitchell's getting it because he ended up being really good at hockey. And I also feel like we all knew Mitchell from 8th grade was gonna end up in the NHL. I mean, he was committed to a Division I school in 8th grade, so we feel like after this had happened, Isaiah's mom knew that he would get drafted or something of this. He would do something really big in hockey, and she was going to bring this back up, instead of making it right with, because like I said, there have been multiple apology attempts over the year before he even got drafted. Like him and his family trying to make it right, him trying to apologize. And like I said, I do have text messages for later I can read off and that I've sent to you guys that you guys are free to use. And
so just something that we didn't touch too much on when we were talking to you prior to being on the show, and something that was brought up in Isaiah's letter and something that Joni had also touched on was proof. And proof about Mitchel, taking the steps in the right direction to be a better person. What has he done? What is he doing? What is he going to continue to do? What does he want to do? Yeah. Can you touch kind of on what you know of the steps that he's done or he's taking or he wants to take to kind of prove that he's a different person, that he's a better person, and kind of right his wrong as much as you can, because obviously you can't take back the damage that you've done to Isaiah, and I'm sure the hurt that you've brought to his family, his friends, but there has to be kind of a silver lining in the story of, either shedding light to bullying, to racism. Like there has to be something that comes positive out of this, whether it's a change in hockey culture or, that term boys will be boys, like that, that change, like, what is being done to try and fix everything that went on?
Yeah, of course. Mitchel, when he went back to Tri-City in the United States Hockey League, he had worked with different organizations. I'm not sure which organizations. Again, it is online. I believe with elementary schools as well. I did volunteer work in the community to improve his behavior. I noticed his attitude had changed from after that whole incident over the years myself. He's like a completely different person now. There's no more, mean Mitch. It's, have you seen Mitch lately? He's completely changed. Like I said, he's done the volunteer work. Personally, what I've noticed, like I said, he invites me out a lot everywhere. He's just, it's hard to explain, like I said, other than the facts. He's done the volunteer work. He's messaged Isaiah personally and congratulated him on, because Isaiah does have a kid, and congratulated him on his baby. He's, I feel like he's taken the right steps to change. There hasn't been anything that has come out about Mitchell since that. Like, I think he's kept, stayed under the radar pretty well and kept his head down and grinded. I also noticed personally as well, his attitude is a lot different, as I've said. So that's what I know from the steps he's taken to become a better person.
So I guess I'll give the floor kind of back to you. You can, go on and share the other little pieces that you have or that you're allowed to share with us. And again, the floor is yours.
Of course. First off, before I read the text messages, I'll say that once Mitchell did get dropped by the Boston Bruins, and this is all on Twitter for everybody to see. I asked the victim's mom on Twitter, is this what you wanted to happen? When will this end? What can we do to, fix the situation? And she just ended up completely blocking me for that. And I looked on her Twitter before, and other guys from our community had asked, Jody, this is actually about the kids. The Millers have tried to make this right. And every time they would ask her, what can they do to make this right? She would deflect the question as if there's nothing we could do. And the messages I have here, which I've sent to you guys, and these are all being used in a legal case. It says, so this is Mitchell to Isaiah. So Mitchell said, "Hey, bro, how's it going? Just wanted to say congrats on your baby. That's awesome." And Isaiah said, "I'm good, bro. Just chilling, working, and I appreciate it, bro. How have you been, man? How is hockey? I hope you know I don't have any problems with you, bro. I just want us to be cool." Mitchell says, "I've been good. Not much is going on with me. I'm just trying to find a job, but we are good. I was just reaching out, man, to wish." And Mitchell was hoping for them to be friends. "Still, we should go out to lunch or dinner sometime to catch up." Isaiah said, "That's good, bro. You got to do what you got to do for yourself." "Yeah, we could do that. I stay in Detroit, though, so I don't know if you could possibly come up here." Mitchell said, "Yes, what have you been up to?" And yes, I definitely could. We just would have to find a date that would work for both of us. I'm usually more free around like 4 to 5 p.m. So Mitchell had reached out to Isaiah before all this. And from what I'm aware, obviously, there's things I still can't share with you,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But from what I'm aware, this isn't even the first, this is just one of many conversations they've had where Isaiah has disputed the fact that he doesn't want any problems and he wants to be cool. And, what we're all thinking is, and this, what I just read to you, this makes everything that Eustace King said, Mitchell's agent, that Eustace King said on his podcast, true about the situation that Mitchell and Isaiah wanted to be friends. They wanted to end this and put this behind them. And they were both going to go into schools and explain bullying, and explain the story and what not to do and all that. So,
I'm gonna interrupt you quickly. Can you give us like a time frame when that conversation happened?
That is the only thing I don't remember. I want to say I'm assuming this is when Isaiah's baby was born. I can probably get a time frame for you, after the podcast.
It doesn't be exact, just an idea.
Yeah, because I mean,
recently.
So before the Bruins stuff or after?
Oh, this is before the Bruins.
Okay.
So I guess that kind of, that timeline again, in just, I don't have Twitter, but in doing research on Joni, having posted stuff on Twitter about her and Isaiah and his child and that kind of thing on Twitter. If this is the timeline before the Bruins and him and Isaiah are cool, I guess I just not understanding this letter that he put out, saying that they're not friends and he didn't accept this apology. Like, to me, that letter and this conversation don't correlate. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
And I know, like I said, you're still friends with Hunter and Mitchell. Like, what is the feeling behind this? Like, and again, I don't want, like, I'm not going to ask you what they said or this or that, just because I know they're still in court and that kind of thing. But like, what is the, like, is this something that caught them off guard?
You see, obviously, this is the first time this has been shared publicly to like a platform. This has kind of been circulating. I actually had to ask Mitchell, before I was able to share this text with you guys. What I feel like is happening, and this is just my personal opinion, this isn't fact or anything, that Isaiah wants this to all end. He wants Mitchell to play in the NHL, or, I think Isaiah wants Mitchell to do good and for them to be friends and to move on from this. But I feel like Isaiah's mom doesn't want to move on from this, that, she likes the media attention, and that she's, I don't want to say manipulating, but she's like talking to Isaiah, because like I said, he does have a disability, which is fetal alcohol syndrome, and he's always a couple of years behind. I think that's with the brain and everything, like how he thinks. So when we were in eighth grade, I think they said he was thinking like a 10-year-old, and we are like 14 at the time, 13 or 14 at the time. So I feel like he's being persuaded by his mom to not be cool with the situation and for them not to be friends, because like I said, I don't feel like Isaiah wants all this. I don't think he wants to be in the media because this is, if we think about it, if I was a victim of this bullying and everything, it's kind of embarrassing to what happened to have to relive the
and exactly like what you just said, just reliving through this situation and almost tearing open that scar. And I only know what I would want, and that's probably, again, to move on. And obviously you want something positive to come out of this. And I like, kind of what you said about, I'm not sure whose idea it was, whether it's Mr. King's or if it was Isaiah's or Mitchell's, about going to the schools and talking about bullying. I think, having a case of this pedigree being used as an example to teach, kids, teens, even adults, I feel, myself have learned reading about this, and I'm sure Justin feels the same way, of how much everything you say and everything you do weighs on somebody. And there's a domino effect and a ripple effect of your actions, and there's consequences to your actions, in everything. And I think that's something that a lot of people kind of forget on the day-to-day. And this has really, I think, reminded a lot of people, and especially people in the sports world, kind of be mindful of the things that you say and the things that you do. I guess, another question I have for you, and whether you can share this or not, or if you know or not. Obviously, pre-Bruins, they seem like they're cool. They seem like, they're on the same page.
Yeah.
Signs with Bruins, everything happens in that, 2-week span. Signs, NHL bans them, sent to the AHL, then contract terminated, whatever, bought out. Is he allowed, or has he had contact at all, do you know, with Isaiah or Joni or a representative? Has there been any communication there? Or is it just lawyers talking or agents talking?
From what I know, he hasn't had any contact with Isaiah or Joni or anything, and that's as far as I know. That's something I haven't really talked about, with him. To be honest, of that situation, I don't really know what's going on. Like I said, if you look at, this was a news article that came up, so everybody can search Mitchell's name up, and this will come straight up. It said the Bruins had hired an attorney or something.
Yeah, they hired a legal team to review their, I think it was like policies on signing players or acquiring players, whatever.
Process.
Yeah,
their player betting process. So I don't know if that's involving Mitchell, if there's something legally going on with, that and what that's all about. But as far as I know, Mitchell hasn't had any contact with the victim or anything.
Okay.
Or Joni after the Bruins have dropped him.
So I guess before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to add or say?
Definitely. I don't agree with what happened at all. It is a black man or African American. It's definitely infuriating. I don't believe we should punish someone for something that happened at 14 their whole life. And I feel like we need to be adults about it, and how, I feel like with this whole cancel culture thing, it's been cancel them and then move on to the next. And I feel like if we were serious, we had talked about this, if we really wanted change, why was it just as soon as he got dropped from the Bruins, and the same thing happened when he got dropped from Arizona and North Dakota, people stopped talking about it? Why wasn't there more of a push to, well, what else can we do to, make sure this doesn't happen again? is just silent immediately. And people say it's not cancel culture, but that's cancel culture. Bringing stuff up from the past that people have done and trying to ruin their lives over it in the present, and I feel like this could have been handled a completely different way, and we don't need to be going to all this. This could have been handled privately. So both the victim and, the victim and, the suspects and the families, can have peace of mind. This could have been handled different ways. I've talked to many people about the situation and, mixed feelings about everything. People are always going to pick a side, but I feel like, part of life is definitely forgiving, forgetting, and moving on. Obviously some people won't always forgive, but you eventually do have to move on. I feel like, it's not going to go away, and Isaiah will definitely think about this, and this is something that'll stick with him for the rest of the life, especially with him being in the national news and everything, because no one expected this from our town, but it's happening, and it's while you grow up with a kid, and next thing you know, you turn on the TV, it's on ESPN, it was on CNN with the whole Bruins thing, and it's just crazy. And I'll read one more quote. I was actually talking to a friend of mine in the DMs when we were discussing the situation, because obviously I wasn't not going to be happy about bullying or racism, but we were discussing that, we all do stupid things, especially when we're younger, but it's how we learn from it. And he said, in the world we live in, people have forgotten forgiveness. People choose to cling to negativity, and it's evident in society. Folks are quick to point out mistakes and refuse to recognize shame. On the ice, in the locker room, we always hold each other accountable, and we help each other grow. We live and die, bleed, and fight together on an ice surface. I've never seen a guy stand up and claim he's the reason why the team's won. It's always a team effort. If society could adopt some of what we have in the locker room, hold each other accountable, help each other grow, this world would be a much better place. And I wholeheartedly agree with this. Instead of trying to hurt, cancel, and hope people have a horrible life, how can we help them grow as a person? How can we help them get better and get help? That's what I feel like should be happening. How can we help Isaiah get better mentally from this situation? How can we make sure this doesn't happen again? How can we make sure Mitch is, truly sorry, and all these questions? But instead, we're just jumping to conclusions, and I just feel like all this cancel culture stuff has gotten completely out of hand, and we're missing the point here of what's actually supposed to be happening. And other things, I feel like we should just I feel like this is about the kids, and the mom isn't letting it be about the kids. It's more about her, and the media. I feel like it's not even about Isaiah and Mitch anymore. So that's all I have to say.
And I just want to thank you, Nate, for coming on. I know it's not an easy subject to talk about, whether it's racism, whether it's bullying. And I know that your time is obviously valuable, and the information is sensitive, so we appreciate you taking the time to come on and speaking with us. And if you can thank Hunter and Mitchell for sharing, the information that they have with us and allowing for you to kind of share their story and where they're at, we really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for having me. I'm happy you guys gave me a chance to tell my side of the story and have my voice be heard, not just for me, but for Isaiah, Mitchell, Hunter, and everybody else. I greatly appreciate you guys.
No problem. Thanks, and
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care, hon. Thank you for watching this special episode of Average Jocks Hockey Podcast. Justin and I want to reinforce that we do not stand for any abuse or racism, and we will update this story as we get more information, but this episode was solely meant as information gathering and to share with you, the listeners, to form your own opinions based off of what is available in the media. Thank you for listening. and we'll talk to you soon. Good enough?